Look at the booze.
Jesus Christ. This looks like a stag do.
It does. It really does.
Hello, welcome to Speech Podcast. I'm Leo KEARSE. I'm here with NICO.
Dipset Bird Gang, we born to fly, baby. We back.
The Bajan sensation, and special guest this week, we've got Tamer Kattan.
Hello.
Did I
Thank you for having me.
Is it Tamer?
It's close. It's Tamer, like a hammer but with a T.
Right.
And then Kattan.
Right.
Yeah. But it's close.
Tamer Kattan, yeah.
You said it better than 90% of the Americans that have known me my whole life.
Man, I found out I was pronouncing my own name wrong.
No.
So, yeah, KEARSE. My mum says it's KEARSE. She heard me saying it. I was saying KEARSE.
Yeah, I was saying the curse too.
Yeah, and she says it's KEARSE. And I'm like, man, what do you know, Mum? And at the desk, doing the buttons, we've got Jonathan.
Happy birthday, Jonathan.
Hello.
It's his birthday.
Happy birthday.
He's
Woo!
16 today.
Wow, you're going to get boobs soon.
Eagle. Oh, yeah.
Not unless we transition him. Anyway, Tamer, you're over for. You live in Barcelona. Are you from New York?
From LA and New York, yeah.
You're from LA and New York.
Where were you
Man.
born?
I was born in Cairo, in Egypt.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Right.
And then I was always back and forth between New York and LA.
Yeah.
And then I was in New York until I got married during the pandemic, and then now I live between Barcelona and London.
A global presence.
A global for an American, it's shocking, isn't it?
And we're talking about the rats.
Hang on. Where did you go primary school though?
Primary Los Angeles, East LA specifically,
Oh,
which is almost a different country.
And were you in gangs?
I was not in gangs, but I was gang adjacent.
Okay.
Because Nico
Yeah.
is looking to join a gang.
Bird Gang.
I had a nickname given to me by gang members.
Yeah.
What was the nickname?
Ironically, Joker. In Mexican culture, they give you a nickname that's the opposite of what you are.
Oh, really?
They call tall guy shorty. They call fat girl skinny.
We do that in Barbados.
Yeah.
No, we do the opposite. We call tall.
What, the opposite? The opposite.
No, we call.
That's just what it is.
Yeah, we do that.
What
You do the opposite
You call
of the
tall
opposite.
people
We
tall?
call tall people tall man.
Oh yeah, no.
Short
In
girl,
Mexican
short
culture,
girl.
it's the opposite.
Imaginative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to get. I smiled too much when I first moved in the neighborhood, and I kept getting
Right.
beat up. And then
For
my
smiling?
Yeah, and my neighbor who
Why
was
did
in
that
a gang.
anger people?
I
You're
didn't
not supposed
know.
to be happy
I was
in the
new.
hood.
I was
You
new.
gotta have a screw face to survive.
Yeah, you're
Is that
right.
why you got that face on you all the time?
Yeah.
That's what it calls-
And that's what I
from the
learned.
streets.
I didn't know till I kept getting jumped, and then my neighbor's like, "Hey, stop smiling, stupid." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Stop smiling. That's why they're jumping you."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I stopped smiling for so long that they started calling me Joker.
And what happens when you get jumped? How badly beaten up do you get? What?
I used to get jumped so often that I learned that the more people there are, the less dangerous it is.
Do they, like, when you see people like sort of kicking someone? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I've seen a video where somebody gets like rolled over and kicked and stuff, but it doesn't look like they're doing any damage.
No, the more people there are, the way less dangerous it is because
Right.
they get in each other's ways and
Right.
nobody gets a good punch. But if it's like one-on-one is the most dangerous,
Right.
And it was, but it was just like a normal thing
Right.
over there. It was a
You
completely
can't-
normal
Do
thing.
they take your stuff?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes they take my
Jesus.
stuff, but a lot of the times, because I was in the neighborhood, they had different classes of the way they would beat you up.
Yeah.
I got beat up as an outsider, but within the neighborhood. I wasn't in the gang, but I was in the neighborhood.
Right.
But it was comedy that made them go, all right, he's cool, he's in the neighborhood, he makes us laugh, and so we won't fuck with him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you smile or you carry a book.
Yeah,
Your
that's
target.
true.
If you're smart.
That's true.
you
If
know.
you look like you're trying to get out.
Yeah.
Right.
You look like you want to
What if
read
it's
and
what if it's a
stuff.
Quran?
I don't know. Never thought about that.
You hear about the kid in Wakefield in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So basically, I don't know if you heard about this story, but over here, this school kid, he's a 14-year-old kid. He lost a game of Call of Duty. So as a forfeit, his mates were like, well, you got to bring a Quran into school. So he ordered this Quran off Amazon, brought it in, and they didn't do anything, but it fell out of a bag and got scuffed. Anyway, the word got back to the sort of local Muslim community, and it was inflamed by this, I think it was a Labour councillor, said, oh, this person's desecrated the Quran or whatever. Anyway, all kicked off, as you can imagine. People with beards got super angry, and this kid got death threats and stuff. So the police got involved, but instead of being like, "Whoa, people are sending death threats to this 14-year-old kid," that's illegal. They charged the kid with a non-crime hate incident, which is a weird sort of thing that we got here for for anybody who has an opinion that's not, you know, the government approved opinion.
You just made a Muslim say Jesus. It's insanity. That's absolute insanity.
Yeah.
Quran costs $3. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
it's silly. It's a child. It's not okay to threaten a child's life ever. It's ridiculous.
Well, come on, what? There must be some instances where it's okay to threaten a child.
Well, threaten a child's life. Like, we talked about this before the podcast, the fact that I go to therapy. And I think sometimes people shouldn't just go to therapy, but cultures should. You know,
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like to allow things that are so small
Yeah.
to get you so enraged is completely unhealthy.
Yeah,
So unhealthy and so incredibly wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
To me, the Quran is a big deal.
You were
I love the
gonna.
Quran.
But isn't it funny how Mohamed Salah becomes a player in Liverpool and now kids are singing, hey, I want to be a Muslim, I can be a Muslim too, but nobody's got beef with that. Right? They don't have a problem with that. And beef, ironically. Halal beef.
As long as it's not pork.
But it's silly. Like, some kid drops a book and they're so serious about that.
Yeah.
But then these, football fans who are going, being really flippant about being Muslim. Oh, I'm going to sit in a mosque because he scores so many goals or whatever. There's the songs that they're all singing just because Mohamed Salah is a great football player.
I'm still waiting for the first ever Jewish Premier League football player. Not happened yet.
So is all of Israel.
Yeah.
Has there been? Are there many like Jewish athletes? Because it was a joke in one of the airplane films about somebody
List
said,
of Jewish
a list of Jewish
so
athletes was like a small
I
book.
googled sporty Jews recently, and it came up with, did you mean sporty jewellery? Like, I'm a jock for the Jews. Like,
Sporty Jews would be like an Israeli version of the Spice Girls.
Yeah, sporty Jews.
Yeah, it's upsetting, man. It really upsets me to hear
Yeah.
stuff like that. It bums me out that those sorts of stories are attached to the culture that I come from. It feels like
Right.
identity theft to me.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people. The cameras are always on the extremes, but there's a bunch of Muslims that are right in the middle. They're
Yeah.
just like normal people that are like, yeah, I love the Quran, I love what it has to say, but I hate the way that people interpret it.
Yeah.
And I hate that these extremists. I don't even like seeing cats that dress like Taliban
Right,
and
yeah.
live here. I'm like, yeah, you guys bug me.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, yeah, and some people say that people actually become more cultures can become more inward looking and more sort of enhanced because it's an identity to cling on to. If you're in Pakistan or wherever, then a lot of places are sort of like, all right, you follow the sort of the rules of the culture,
Sure.
but really when you're with your mates, you just have a laugh.
Yeah.
Whereas if you come over to the UK, all of a sudden you're in some like shitty town in Yorkshire, you're like, what the fuck went wrong? Like I used to, like where I came from, it was hilly, but at least it was sunny. You know what I mean? And like, you're in this foreign land, so you're like, I've got to cling on to my identity. And
Yeah,
then,
I think you're right. I think they always talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but they broke that down. Food and shelter is not the first need.
Really?
The first need is the desire to belong.
Right.
That's
no
the
way.
first need. And I think what happens is, ironically, when people move to these different cultures and then they're felt like they can't fit in,
Yeah.
then they go backwards.
Yeah.
And they go, well, if I can't become this culture, then I'll cling tightly to the one I came from.
Yeah.
Man, I think you have to eat though, because then
You know what? They actually had an
belong
experiment.
on Earth.
They had this experiment where they put these monkeys in a cage on one side. One side was food. The other side was a blanket that smelled like their mom. And the monkeys would go to the cage that smelled like their mom and starve
Really?
rather than eat.
Right.
Yeah.
That just
So,
shows how stupid
Belonging
animals
is
are.
more. Yeah, 'cause we are. At the end of the day, we are pack animals.
Yeah.
No matter what we say, you can live in the woods, you can live in the forest, but you put a convict in isolation, and
Yeah.
within days he's going crazy.
Yeah.
We're pack animals at the end of the day. That's what matters most, is feeling like we belong.
Yeah.
I think that's why the world's so crazy right now, is because everything, all of our sense of identity has gone wacky. We don't know where we belong anymore.
Yeah, all the old sort of tribal lines and stuff have sort of broken down.
100%.
And it's weird how the left and right have become. Like, I'm seeing people on the sort of the dissident right, the sort of not the far right, but the sort of cranky right.
Yeah.
They hate Ukraine. And the far
Yeah.
left hate Ukraine as well. They're like,
Yeah.
we should be, why are we putting money into Ukraine? Why are we, because they see, because Putin's fighting against the West, they see the West as, all this sort of rise of ultra liberalism and drag queens and all the rest of it, pronouns, and they're like, oh, Putin's some sort of base defender of Christianity and traditionalism, and it's like Putin definitely isn't. Under Putin, Russia's become way more multicultural and also has a growing and thriving gay population.
He did speak out against some of the woke stuff in the West, though, in that speech he gave, and Konstantin did a translation of his speech, and some of these things he did say were against the gender ideology and some of the other woke stuff.
Yeah, he pays lip service to it, but under him, I mean, he's Russia is a much more.
But that's more. But still, they still have LGBT issues. It's safer for LGBT people in the West than in Russia.
Yeah. But then, people are saying, oh, he's this sort of, he's a white supremacist and he's a bastion of Christianity fighting against it. It's like, no, the Chechens are like some of his best fighters, and, the rise of Islam in Russia is like way higher than in Ukraine. And Ukraine, if anything, Ukraine is
pretty racist.
It's
pretty racist. I hate to say it. It's a really difficult thing, because of course I feel sorry for them. But then the number of stories that have come out about racist Ukrainians that are refugees or immigrants that are in these different countries and being incredibly racist to people of color and Muslims and stuff. It's just like, my God, it made me realize there's something that's worse than a racist. It's someone that you're helping who's racist to you. That's even worse than a racist. You know what I mean? Like, it's extra infuriating. And of course, it's not all Ukrainians, but it just shows you that there is no black and white. It's gray.
A lot of the Eastern European countries are like that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say they're just like, boom, racist. A lot of it is you become less racist when you have more cultures around you.
That's 100% true.
Still very isolated in that sense.
Right, yeah.
So as places become more diverse, you become less racist.
But I don't know if that's true, because I definitely became more racist when I moved out of Scotland, which is mostly white, and moved to London. Thanks for laughing, Nico.
You want to hear something funny? I actually don't mind racism at all. Racism doesn't bother. I don't mind racism in society. I mind racism in politics. I don't mind if someone who hates me just because I'm an Arab when I'm on the street. Fine.
Yeah.
You have no power. I have no power over your opinion. But if I'm paying taxes and I pay the same price in taxes as someone who's sitting in first class, but I have to sit and coach, fuck that. I have an issue with that. And I think that's the problem with woke culture is I don't mind wokeness in politics. I don't mind equality in politics, but to try to change that in society, I don't care.
Yeah, but I think a lot of these things that people are trying to legislate for are like social things. It's like, they bring out hate crime laws and stuff, and then, our institutions have this push towards, not appearing racist. Appearing racist is the most heinous, most evil thing, and that has terrible consequences.
Sure.
We saw with the grooming gangs, the authorities didn't deal with it because they were worried about looking racist if they dealt with something that was being caused by a particular.
There was
part of the
something
community.
recently this week as well. A guy could have stopped an incident.
Manchester Arena bombing.
Yeah. And he said he didn't stop the guy because he didn't want to
look racist.
Yeah, he didn't
and
want to
it's like,
racist.
man, this is an Ariana Grande concert, and this guy's like, full on Muslim, dressed all in black with a rucksack and fidgety and sweating, and it's like there's so many reasons that's a bit out of place at an Ariana
He's
Grande
got
concert.
wires sticking out of his back.
It's like,
there's a clock ticking on his chest. And the guy's like, I'm not sure about this one.
I'm worried about my next HR review. I don't want to be pulled up in front of. In front of
he was counting backwards, but I didn't want to say anything.
He might be a Muslim Flavor Flav with a big clock on his chest.
Man. But yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, it's wild times, man. But it feels like, I feel like society right now feels like the way I felt when I was a teenager. Like I'm in between a boy and a man, and I had pimples and zits, and I looked ugly. And I feel like that's what society is right now.
Right, yeah.
When you grew up in America, in like secondary school, high school, you ever witnessed any school shootings?
I actually almost got shot myself.
What the fuck?
Yeah, twice.
Serious?
Twice. Once
At school?
Once it was my junior high school graduation. I went to my cousin's house. His parents had a walk-in closet in their upstairs bedroom with a full-length mirror.
Yeah.
It was my first time ever wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah.
So my cousin and I were upstairs, and Miami Vice was really popular at the time.
Yeah.
So I remember I was standing in the mirror looking at myself in the tuxedo, and my cousin just put a gun to my head. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And I pushed it,
Yeah.
and when I pushed it, the gun went off.
Wow.
I literally had burn marks on my palm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man. And then like,
And was he just horsing around? He didn't.
yeah,
you know,
he was
mean
horsing
to-
around. He had
the
his dad's gun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gun,
and
guns
then-
can
Just
go off.
plain?
20 years later, 15 years later, whatever, we're at Christmas. He's married. He's got his wife. His wife's family are all girls. Our family was all boys.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, and the girls are talking about how, oh, the boys are always talking about how they almost died when they were young, and we were talking about how nice things were.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, remember when you almost shot me? And then everybody stopped talking. And he's like, dude. And I'm like, what? We were kids. And we went upstairs to the closet, and the bullet was still lodged in the
No
wall.
way.
Yeah. And that was when his dad finally got rid of the gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also what happened in Los Angeles at the time, surprisingly, it was Asian gangs that were really heavy in East LA because there were a lot of these Asian kids from China, especially where parents had a lot of money. They would send their kids to these good schools, buy them homes, and they would live in a home by themselves. And they had all this money.
Yeah.
And they kind of started becoming gang members. And because there was a lot of racism towards them, so there was a lot of anger.
Right.
And there wasn't like an older, wiser figure to tame the teenage angst.
And you're talking about belonging.
You mean
Yeah.
like
Belonging
you
being
mean like
such
a Mr. Miyagi?
Yeah, like a Mr. Miyagi. Yeah.
That's the last thing you want, like people being in gangs and good at karate. But yeah, talking about a sense of belonging, were they joining the gangs because they wanted that, that they
100%.
weren't getting from wider
That's exactly
society?
right.
Right.
It's one of the loneliest feelings in the world to feel like you don't belong to anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's dangerous when you feel like you don't belong. So, yeah, that's exactly right. They felt like they didn't belong, and then so they all kind of grouped together.
Yeah.
You know, and they there was a friend of mine named Jack.
Is that famous, is it African proverb? The child who doesn't feel the warmth of the village will light a fire to burn it down.
Ooh,
Oh, really?
That's
Yeah,
good.
something like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is so real. I felt it in my bones.
Yeah.
100%, man. And I had a friend who was Asian, but he was Americanized.
Yeah.
He was a very American kid, and he was a friend of mine, and we were in a band together. And he had a Chinese sister. And one of the Chinese gang members kept hitting on his sister, and he was telling me, these guys keep calling my house, and I fucking hate it, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I was a macho kid, and I was really buff at the time. So I went up to him, and I went, hey, man, stop fucking with my friend's sister. And he's like, this is none of your business. And I'm like, fuck you, it is my business. That's my friend. And we started fighting, me and this one kid, and I beat him up.
Jeez.
And then the next day, all of a sudden, there was like 7 Asian kids chasing me in their cars. And I was stopped at a red light. They were behind me.
Luckily, they all crashed.
Yeah.
Bit of racism there.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, but they chased me, man. Pulled out bats from their cars,
Jesus.
guns. It was really like when I
Fucking
think
hell.
about my childhood, I've seen guns multiple times.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I've been threatened by a gun pointed at my head twice.
Yeah.
Which is, I seriously, and they were both 22s,
Right.
which is like the worst kind because the bullet would go in your skull and not come out and bounce around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And destroy your brain.
Yeah.
So it was, I mean, it's insane that that I can look at my childhood and think there were 2 times where I really could have died.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And when I look at I think I've gone to more funerals. My dad said this to me that was really freaky.
Yeah.
When I graduated high school, I'd been to more funerals than my dad had.
Right. That's
But
Yeah.
but have you seen like one of the ones where a disgruntled kid comes to school?
No,
and shot at the classroom?
Not shot at, but
this
but
is what
there was
this is what Nico's planning with several comedy clubs.
No, never. I'd never seen a disgruntled kid shoot anything, thank Christ. But I did. There was a kid who was very awkward, very weird, very much an outsider who was suspended because he brought a gun to school.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh
his
man.
walker.
Yeah, my mate Gordy. So me and my mate Gordy, both our dads are gunsmiths. And
wow.
he made he was going to sell this fucking sawn-off shotgun to, I better not, Ian, this other kid, but I'm not going to give his last name. He actually, because he joined the army after school, so
Wow.
I don't know what he's doing now, but it could be bad for him. Oh, fuck it, Ian Morrison. But like, he sold this, sawn-off shotgun to sell to wee Mo. And this thing, man, because Gordy had just like made it in his dad's workshop, and the bits were all like, loose and rattly. I was like, man, if you fire that thing, like, never mind what you're fucking trying to do with it, you're gonna fucking, it's just gonna blow up and like take your hand off. Yeah. And so we talked Gordy out of selling it to Wemo, and but yeah, 10 quid. 10 quid.
Oh my God. That's a deal.
That's a deal. But apparently in London now, it's reasonably easy to get a gun, but it's really difficult to get ammunition.
I like that.
There's a lot of people making homemade ammunition, but the problem with that is because it's like it's not made to the same standards as like proper ammunition. It's not accurate. So when people shoot, they go to shoot someone, it can veer off and kill an innocent bystander.
It's crazy. So dangerous. Yeah, I mean, that was a big thing in LA for a long time. Drive-by shootings and people getting shot. Like, I was at a school where they would send a letter home saying, tell your kids to not wear red or blue.
Right.
Because of the gangs.
Right.
And I remember...
I thought it was just because they clash.
But it was wild. I remember, even as a child, I remember thinking, how come they're telling us not to wear red and blue instead of telling them?
Yeah.
Why are they winning?
Yeah,
there was this thing in America called we used to call it playing the dozens, right? And it was basically battle rapping like Eminem did, but it wasn't. It was just jokes that would go back and forth.
Right. Yeah.
The reason
like a roast battle.
Yeah, like roast battle. But playing the dozens comes from slavery.
Right.
They used to sell slaves one at a time unless there was something wrong with you, and then they would sell you by the dozen.
Right.
So there'd be 12 slaves in a cage, one with half an arm, one with a hair lip, and they'd all start making fun of each other.
Right.
And that's where like your mama jokes came from.
Yeah.
So I would do these. I would be in these things called playing the dozens.
Yeah.
And I got better and better and better at them because everybody wanted to keep battling me because I was the weird kid.
Yeah.
And then finally, this kid that used to beat me up every day, I started making fun of him. And he finally goes up to me and goes, if you stop making fun of me, I'll stop beating you up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. And that's when I decided, okay, instead of trying to be the toughest guy, which was a fucking no way win, being the funniest guy could make me.
I was both. I was the toughest and the funniest.
In Tunbridge Wells.
That's a rare thing, man.
Well, nah, it's the same thing though. Like we grew up in Barbados. Like after football, you just sit and just roast each other.
Yeah.
Like just roast. And on the field, it was just brutal. Like outsiders would come to play football with us, or like new friends, and they would leave crying.
Yeah.
Like you had to have that's why I'm good at like doing quick banter and stuff. Yeah. And it's from being in Barbados and getting roasted and having to come up with a response.
And that's why so many of your audiences are upset when they leave your shows.
Yeah. But I'm building their character. You know, you learn. You need a tough skin.
Yeah,
but we would say horrible shit.
Yeah.
To people, man. Like some of the stuff I look back and I'm like, bro, that is fucking wrong, man.
Yeah, it was always like an arms race, an escalating arms race. You know, and if somebody's mom had something wrong with them or whatever, like you go for the most like brutal thing.
Totally.
It's like now that I think that this is the problem with today's generation. I think somewhere about like 20 or 30 years ago, they decided to make it illegal.
A man, so like he was through on goal, kick the ball and miss. Yeah. Right? And the guy tells him, man, you play football like you had a foot transplant and your body's rejecting your feet.
Dude, I was at roast.
Ridiculous shit.
I was at Roast Battle and Comedy Store before it was on TV. There's a girl named Danielle Martinez who has no feet because of diabetes, and she rolled up on stage. Well, she was in a wheelchair.
Right, yeah.
And she came up on stage in a wheelchair, and Moses asked the guy that was battling her, he's like, are you nervous about battling a woman in a wheelchair? He's like, why should I be nervous? She's already been defeated.
That's funny.
Did she lose both feet at the same time?
Yeah.
At the same time?
At the same time.
At the same fucking time,
yeah.
Jesus.
But it shows, like, even Roast Battle really taught me something. It always ended with a hug. And it reminded me of the fact that the people that I hated were not the people I made fun of.
Right.
The people that I hated were the people I said nothing to.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why this culture, we've got like, they've eliminated bullying in schools. You're not allowed to like take the piss out of people. And if you do, somebody's going to be, mate, somebody's taking the piss out of me. No. That breeds, like, it doesn't just breed a nation of sort of just namby-pamby lightweights. It means people don't. A lot of that is bonding. You know, people are like, oh, men are always so horrible to each other. Like girls nurture each other. No, girls are like.
I am sure those
people.
some of them people that we bullied, if they had guns in Barbados at the time, they would have shot us up.
Did they try and do like? Did they try and come into school and like do it with like a hammer or something?
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, it takes a bit longer, but
And the weapon of choice back in the day in Barbados was a machete,
Right,
what
yeah.
we call a Collins,
Yeah.
because of cane, sugar cane.
why is it called the Collins?
That's the name for it, the local name for it,
Right.
Collins, a lens. So because the thing on Barbados was a sugar industry.
Yeah.
So everyone used to cut cane or had something to cut cane
Yeah,
or
yeah.
cut coconuts. So if you got into an altercation, you go home and get the Collins
Right.
or the machete.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so I've seen
wild.
people get chop up.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Weird. I mean, the worst thing that happened to me was, well, in fact, it was my mate Gordy again. But
Is Gordy still alive?
Gordy's still alive, as far as I know. He smokes too much weed, though. Weed is like the worst.
Gordon
drug.
Brown.
It sucks all your ability to sort of do things.
Weed
Like,
is
how
the best
dare you.
drug.
no,
How
yeah,
dare
no, it's
you.
a Terrible,
Weed is the
terrible.
best drug, mate.
Terrible. Apart from CBD,
No,
apart from the CBD products sold by our sponsor,
At High Point.
High Point.
You're talking about amateurs. It's like watching somebody who doesn't know how to skateboard ride a skateboard going, skateboard is dangerous. No, it's not. For people who smoke weed that know how to smoke weed, it is one of the most beautiful, amazing things.
Ganja are the healing of the nation.
Let me just say, you don't want to smoke weed. It's bad. It's got THC in it. It's got carcinogens. No smoking weed. What you want is High Point CBD. They've taken the good bit. They've taken the good bit of the weed, the bit that's actually beneficial to your thinking and your digestive
Leo, can our
tract.
listeners get a discount at all?
They can get a discount if they use the code 3SP when they buy any High Point product, and you get a 10% discount.
That was seamless.
Yeah, that was
I remembered that.
That was beautiful.
I could remember that because of my constant use of High Point's excellent product. So please, it is a way of supporting the podcast as well. So why not obliterate yourself legally with High Point CBD? No, I won't obliterate. It's nice, but you know, you eat enough gummies, you're gonna be. But yeah,
hang on.
Code
We got-
3SP.
You guys should be giving
3SP.
samples to guests, by the way.
We did, but we ate them
ate
all.
We ate them all. They were
Like at
so
the
good.
first show.
This is bullshit. This is racism. I'm an Arab. Where are my gummies?
No, the thing with weed is, right,
Yeah.
with any drug or anything, once it's abused or pushed to the limit, then it's bad for you.
Yeah.
And that goes for water, that goes for asprin, that goes for anything.
Water isn't.
You drink too much water, you will die.
Yeah, but you're not going to
There's
get
that lady who
you're not going to
died.
get any nice effect. You're not going to get any nice effect.
No, I'm
from
saying
drinking
that
water.
anything that you take to the extreme is going to mess you up,
Yeah,
including water.
but the thing with
People
weed,
die from drinking too much
And
water.
he pours the
Die.
vodka.
the thing with
So hang on. This
Yeah?
is the thing with weed. If you smoke weed constantly every day, you don't do anything, you don't exercise,
yeah, if you want to do it.
or you don't do anything else, then yes, you will become a bit slow or mentally lethargic or whatever. But if you use it sparingly, like sometimes I write the most and I'm the most productive when I smoke a joint because I become more creative.
But is it good?
My thoughts are, but I don't
Is it good
use it
stuff?
every single, I mean,
Is the stuff you write any good?
yes.
Do you know
I mean,
what
in
I...
general?
I was yes no I was looking for this piece to a bit that I had the other day.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it, and I know it's a good joke, and it's a joke about the animal cruelty and stuff like that. And I was like, I
Is
can't.
this about the Barbados, like the kicking cats? And
Yeah. So I was
Kicking cats.
Oh man,
Yeah,
we had this
so-
on an earlier podcast. Like, so
So I was looking.
I'm Egyptian. We worship cats. What the fuck, man?
of course, this is a hate crime.
It is. We can kick women, but not cats.
This is why there's no pyramids in Barbados.
Yeah. So there's I was looking for how do I get this into a proper bit? How do I finish this off? And I had a joint. I was at a friend's house. I had a puff, and my mind opened up, and then right there was the answer.
Right.
Right there.
What was the
Boom.
answer? What was it?
Also, like Barbadian people, we might physically abuse a cat.
Yeah.
You might kick a cat, all right? But British people, it's emotional breaking down of the cat. They put the cat in a little top hat and a bow tie and make the cat. You know what I mean? Like, or the dog.
Take away the cat's
put the
dignity.
Dog, you can see in his eyes.
Make
He's
it an
like Britney.
Instagram account.
He's like Britney in a conservatorship. He's dead behind the eyes, right? And I was like, we got physical abuse and psychological abuse. And I'm saying, I'm looking at that cat or that dog, and he's like, yo, I wish I was with a black family right now. I can heal a broken leg, but this mental shit.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, boom, that's it.
Yeah.
That's where I take that. And that only came to me because I had that joint. And
Right.
it
You know
opened up.
what I think? I think a lot of people like misinterpret the creativity with weed. I'm not saying you, but in my opinion,
I'm telling you, bro.
I think weed doesn't make me more creative. Being relaxed makes me more creative.
that's what it does. It opens your mind.
It chills you out.
It chills you out.
And when I started doing meditation, the thing that I learned is like, I learned from a guy that was really practical. He's all, fuck all the spiritual stuff. Here's what meditation is. You get this shit thrown on the windshield of life, all these dead bugs. It start to make it hard to see the purpose. Like, what are you fighting for? What are you trying to go for? But then when you meditate or smoke weed, the windshield wipers clean it.
Yeah.
And then the bugs come again, and then you just windshield wipe again.
But yeah.
But that's all that it is.
You hardly get any bugs anymore because all the insects are dying out because of what do they call it? Pesticides. But
wow.
isn't meditation just like being bored?
Yes, being bored is one of the most amazing things you can use for creativity. We forgot what it means to be bored. Everyone is on their phones. The minute I'm bored, I'm hopping on a TikTok video. And I literally, in my calendar, from noon to 4, I have a block that says, be bored.
Right.
And I will sit in a park like an old man. I will feed fucked up pigeons. I will just sit and stare at people. I'll put my headphones on without any music and my sunglasses on where I could look where I want to look.
Why do you need them on then?
Well, just so people don't realize I'm listening.
All right.
You know what I mean? Listening and that's why I love busy cities. I love busy cities because that's TV to me.
Yeah.
That is more that's reality TV.
I like people watching. I love it.
Yeah,
It's
me
great.
too, man.
When I was young, I used to keep pigeons as well.
Really?
But yeah.
Wow.
That was my thing. I
Quite a
used to
few people keep pigeons.
Yeah. Mike Tyson used to keep pigeons.
Bob Dylan as well.
Yeah.
Bob
I
Dylan
used-
nearly died. He
used to
got
have
a
loads.
heart infection from some spore in the pigeon.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you ever?
No, I never had that,
yeah, right.
luckily. But yeah, I used to have loads of pigeons, man.
But can you pet them?
They used to come and land. I was a pigeon, man. I put my hand out and pigeons would come land on me.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
With their
the king
weird
of
ass
pigeon. Were people scared?
Nah, but the pigeons in Barbados are not like these pigeons over here in
Yeah.
big cities. They got all their toes, man. They got all their toes. That's the first time when I came here that I saw
Oh man, you see some disabled.
mutilated, disabled pigeons.
Yeah.
They could be in a roast battle, like both
yeah.
feet gone.
Yeah,
you know what I
man,
mean?
it's
Like,
All
crazy.
the pigeons I had all their toes.
You know why pigeons in London don't have, like, you see so many with like a foot missing. There's got to be some with 2 feet missing. I guess they
Yeah.
get fucked as a pigeon because you can't ever sit down.
Yeah.
You know why that is?
They stand in the feces.
Why?
It's not the feces. It's human hair. Human hair wraps around their legs.
No.
And cuts off the circulation. Gets tight and cuts off the circulation.
No way.
Yeah, they
Human
man,
hair
Really?
from where?
from humans.
Well,
From the beard. People's
as a
heads.
No,
as a
but
bald
how is
person,
that
I'm
on
a
the
hero.
bridge?
It gets, comes off, like falls out. I mean,
But on a
Might-
bridge.
might have
Both
some
of us are
personal
pigeon lovers. Save the pigeon. Save your hair.
and there's so many people.
He used to be. Hey,
I'm saving the pigeon.
But then he went to Turkey.
I'm saving the pigeon. Yeah, ironically, it was another bird that saved them.
I gotta stop wearing
turkey.
shorts or my pubes are gonna.
But I don't understand. Like pigeons land on bridges and high up
They
places.
land on
always,
they
always
land
the hair
everywhere.
getting up.
No, they land on the ground. They come down. They fly down. They eat stuff. And this hair is blowing around. It blows into crevices. Blows into wherever they are.
It's
blows
insane.
That don't make sense.
No, it
man.
makes-
the
makes
the
perfect
shit
sense.
makes more sense.
Have you ever
Stand
lived
on
with a
shit all
girl?
the
Have
They
you
don't,
ever-
they don't stand in their shit.
Dude, I live with my wife. I'm a bald person.
Why would pigeons evolve for their own shit to be corrosive to them when they shit out of their ass onto their feet all the time?
It totally
no,
makes
mate.
sense.
No. Because they shit on these high up places, and these high up places are where they're safe for rest. But there's so much shit there. They're standing in it, and
they shit off the side of it. It's the hair.
No, but you can see the shit where they're standing because it doesn't. You get splashes. You get splashes,
Yeah, you get
and
splashes.
it doesn't always go
But
down.
they're not going to stand. They're going to be aware.
One time I was hovering. I was squatting over a toilet and I missed the toilet.
But you still have all your toes, right?
And I had, luckily
Man,
it
that's
was,
shitty aim, man.
Yeah,
Like-
luckily it was a solid one. You know what I mean?
Holy
If
shit.
that was
How the fuck
flattering.
did you miss the toilet?
I don't know, man. I thought. I thought
That
I had
is
it.
wild. You must have severe scoliosis. You need a chiropractor.
Oh shit! I thought I had it lined up properly.
Well,
and
yeah,
I
is it because you're looking round too much? And every time you look round, your ass moves off.
I was gonna say, you're a nervous shitter.
Yeah, you fucking missed, man.
No, man, that hair thing makes sense. I'm a bald person. I live with a woman and a cat. I'm constantly covered in hair.
Yeah, there you go.
Constantly. I never realized how much of it was in the air,
Yeah,
but it floats.
and it
Wrap-
gets
it
in
wraps
the
around you,
spinny bit in the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
Wraps around that.
That's when I see it, like in our humidifier and in the vacuum cleaner. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
There's hair everywhere, except on me. It'd be like, it's a bald person. It's really emotionally upsetting that there's hair everywhere except on my head.
How bald are you?
Oh, well, I shave it.
Right,
I shave
yeah.
it bald. I probably have like a little bald spot back here and definitely a receding hairline.
So you could go to Turkey and like get it. They can take hair.
I would
from, like,
never
here.
do that.
Why?
Never. I don't know, man. Like I'm lucky that I have a good shaped head. You know, so
But
like
see?
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind being a bald person. I think
Yeah.
I have a round
No, it works.
shaped head. So, but
You got facial hair as well, so like.
yeah, and I've got a mustache that like it balances out, so
Yeah.
I don't look like a Mr. Potato Head before anybody. Before the mustache, I look like the beginning of a video game. Everybody's like, "What are we gonna add?" You know, but like I don't know. Like I've seen it, and I've seen that it's getting better and better and better. And there's a little piece of me that's like, oh, I wonder what I'd look like with hair again.
What happens if you grow a beard?
It's real. I have a very curly skull.
Right.
So the hair on my head is very curly.
Right.
And the hair on my beard is actually super curly. Even my mustache the hairs start to go like they're super curly. So I'm a little bit Greek too. I'm from Alexandria in Egypt.
Right. Yeah.
So that part of like I have a very curly beard and a very curly hair.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I think like, oh, what would I look like if I got my hair back? And I consider the idea of going to Turkey, but I just don't. I don't know. I think I'm cool. There's the dignity thing in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then too, because I go to therapy and I'm a big believer in stoicism.
You know, a hair transplant is cheaper than therapy.
I've heard.
I found out.
I've
yeah.
heard it is cheaper than therapy.
Yeah.
I think about it as well, man.
Do you?
Sometimes I think about it,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure, man. But I heard that it's tougher for black people.
Yeah, the hair is finer.
Yeah,
apparently, yeah.
it's tougher to get a natural looking
Yeah.
transplant.
You know
for
what's
black
funny?
people.
I have black people hair. Even when I got my tattoos, my tattoo artist is like, "Oh, he's like, "Where are you from?" And I go, "Egypt." And he's all, "Oh, that makes sense." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I tattoo people all the time." He's like, "You have the exact same skin as black people." And I'm like, "Oh, well," even my optometrist one time was like, "Where are you from?" And I go, "I'm from Egypt." He's like, "Oh, it makes sense. You have this pigmentation in your eye that I've only seen in Africans."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm from
Which
Africa."
tells you that black people were the ones in Egypt responsible for all of the great stuff.
Well, black and brown.
Yeah, black and brown.
Yeah,
not,
my
not
first
the white man.
My first
wait.
first president was black. We had a
you.
black president with a white wife who was British.
And all the paintings in the pyramids and the hieroglyphs and all that stuff.
From
those are black people.
4,000 years ago.
No, from like 15,000 years ago. It's way older than
15,000 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
Those
It's
are
made
all
by
black
aliens
people.
anyway.
Yeah,
Well, if you're
all
going to
black
claim
people.
that, you should also claim the enslaving of the Jews. So
No, we are the Jews.
Look, you don't want it.
Cut that out.
And,
I don't want to be Kanye. Let me check my bank account.
you're gonna gonna have to pull that hat down over your face.
You already gave me your card today. It's too late, Nico.
Oh man, yeah. So Adidas.
All my funds going down.
I saw in the news Adidas have got like, so they've got all this Kanye West, all this Yeezy stock.
Yeah.
They can't. They're like, oh, they made this big grand statement. They're like, oh, we're not going to do any business with Kanye West. And they're like, shit, we've got all this stuff in the warehouses. What are we going to do with it? So now they're debating whether they should sell. They've got $500 million worth of stock in the warehouses. And man, that thing cost them, that really rocked them. It's mad how like one person, like, you know, having a crisis, going a bit racist, whatever, can cause that much damage.
Definitely.
Yeah, but wasn't Adidas like founded by like Nazis back in the day?
Yeah, but that's when it was all right for companies to be founded by Nazis. Like Fanta.
The good old days.
Fanta was invented by Nazis, apparently. It used to have like methamphetamine in it, and they drank it during the Blitzkrieg.
Coca-Cola had cocaine in it.
Yeah.
I used to shit my pants when I was a baby, but I stopped.
Everybody did when they were a baby.
I think everyone
But I
did
stopped.
when they're big.
Oh, I see your point. Yeah, I thought this is going to be a
I've
thing
evolved.
there.
I've
I used to
moved
shit my
on.
pants when I was a baby, but I found that this
I
technique...
thought he's gonna say no when they drink Fanta. I find them constipated.
And like growing up in... like, so what age did you move from LA to New York?
From LA to New York, right after high school.
Right.
Right after high school,
How
I
old
moved
was
to.
that? Like 15, 16?
No, I was like 19.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then this I
When
lived
did
in New
you
York
start
for.
the stand-up in the New York? Or-
No, I started stand up in LA, but 2 years after LA, I actually moved to London, and then I did comedy in London for about 3 years, and then I moved back to New York.
When was that?
2000. Well, I've been doing comedy almost 12 years this month.
Right.
On the 15th will be my 12-year anniversary.
Right.
And so, yeah, so this would be 15 years backwards from now. So that's 12 years from so 2012. Yeah, 2012. Yeah, so 2012 I started. 2015 is when I came to London. Was in London for 3 years till 2018, and then was in New York after that.
And you were saying you did like some sort of kick-ass job doing advertising.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny when you're an immigrant. The notion of getting in entertainment was not on the on the docket of options.
Right.
I had to get in Egypt. The finish line for my dad was me buying real estate, buying a house.
Right. Yeah.
So I found advertising, and I'm like, oh, this is a good way for me to be creative and still have a regular day job.
Yeah.
And get money. So it was sort of a dipping my toes in a creative industry. And then, but you know what's funny is I ended up buying a house. I worked at Shiat Day, which is still the most creatively awarded.
Shite D.
Yeah, it was a guy named Jay Shiat and John Day.
That wouldn't work in Scotland. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure it's shite.
You having a shite day?
We say shite in Barbados too.
Yeah, you're right.
When I'm having a bad day on like doing anything, are you playing beer shite? Or are you doing you're doing beer shite?
Yeah, it sounds awful, right?
You say shite.
Yeah, but I worked there for a long time. I worked on Apple for a long time, and then one time I had this. It was Daniel Tosh was in a commercial that I wrote.
Right.
And he said, "Hey, who wrote this?" And they're like, "That guy." And he's like, "Oh, dude, you're really funny. You should try stand up."
Right.
I tried stand up years later. I took classes. I really just dove into it. It was after my dad died that I was like, "What? I'm living in this house," and it was like somebody ripped the GPS out of my car. And for the first time, I was like, "I don't live in this house because I want to. I lived in this house because he wanted me to."
Right. Yeah.
And when he died, it was the first time that I was like, I don't like this house. I don't like this job. I don't like any of this. And that's when I started taking classes and reading books and all that stuff.
Right.
And,
Yeah. This is a lesson, Nico, man. You got to stay alive and control your children as long as it takes. Because if you die, if that control slips, they're going to sell the house. They're going to start doing stupid stuff like
They get their
stand-up.
own ideas and
They
stuff.
get their own ideas.
Yeah.
Follow their own career path.
Yeah.
Crazy.
We're about to hear how it ended disastrously for you.
If you look at my bank account, it really did. Emotionally, I'm much happier. Financially, I'm devastated.
But you've got a lot of you got therapy, you got meditation, you got an optometrist.
Yeah.
So you're paying a lot of
Dude,
people.
every day, I cannot tell you the number of times where I look at myself in the mirror and go, you're a lucky person.
Right.
You're a really lucky person. I have friends who are in prison. I have friends who've died. And if I stayed on the path that I was on, there's no way my wife would have married me.
Right.
There's no way. I had a trail of tears. I would break up with women before they could break up with me, and I broke women's hearts not on purpose because I was a super broken man.
Yeah.
You know, my dad was abused and he abused me.
Right.
And I used to always say it's like my dad was a vampire.
But
My dad
what type of abuse though?
physical. Yeah.
But what's physical?
You want to hear? It's
Because
funny.
here's the
I was
thing.
on a podcast one time. This guy said, "Who made you funny in your family?" And I go, "My dad." They're like, "Was he funny?" And I go, "No, he was a hitter." Like my dad was a boxer, and I remember one time his alarm clock went off and he didn't wake up. So I shook him awake, and out of reflex, he punched.
Whoa.
And he hit me in the face.
Right, geez.
And I got a black eye.
Yeah.
He'd left for work, and I looked in the mirror, and I started getting more of a black eye. So I went in my mom's bathroom, and I used makeup to cover the black eye with my mom's makeup. And then I got to school, and the kids were like, "That guy's wearing makeup. What a homo." And then they punched me in the other eye. So I had 2 black eyes. And in between, and I remember standing in the street halfway home and halfway away from school, and with so much rage.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between being beaten up for a reason and being beat up for no reason.
Yeah.
And oh my body was shaking.
Yeah.
Like just vibrating with rage. And I just didn't know what to do with it, man. I was screaming so much that my throat was raw.
Yeah.
And that was when I realized I was, a lot of times laughing is the thing you do when you can no longer cry.
Yeah.
And that's when I found comedy through pain.
Isn't it amazing that like that's how you found comedy? A lot of people would have like found ISIS or something. You know? So
Thank God.
I'm glad you found comedy.
Thank
At least
God.
if you're bombing. At least if you're bombing. Am I right, guys?
But your dad, you said it was a reflex. He was awake. He didn't mean.
He didn't mean it.
Right.
He didn't mean anything. He's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like that's the greatest thing about therapy is I lost all my anger. I knew that my dad wasn't a bad guy. He was abused too.
It was generational trauma.
Generational,
coming
exactly.
down.
But also, it's might be cultural because I was hit too.
Yeah, but there's a difference in the way.
Is that why you went into comedy, Nico?
No, it's like in the you grew up in the Caribbean
Sure.
when I grew up.
Yeah.
Or you grew up in African households have the same thing.
Yeah.
You grew up in that period, 80s, 90s, whatever.
Yeah.
You will have been hit
Sure.
by your parents.
Sure, but there's a line. There's a line between normal beating in third world countries, and then there's a crossover. Like I remember one time I had my American friends over at my house, and we were watching a movie about a guy that sold drugs in Turkey and was put in a Turkish prison.
Yeah.
And then there was a scene where the guy was beat. What was it called?
Midnight Express?
That's it.
Yeah.
It was Midnight Express.
You know the actor.
And do you remember the scene where he was? They were beating the bottom of his feet.
Oh, yeah.
John is like jerking off.
all my American friends were like, "Ooh, oh my God!" And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
My dad does that to me.
Right.
What-
That's
what
a
was
weird
happening?
beating.
My dad beat the bottom of my feet one
It's a
time
weird
with
beating.
with a stick because he was abused that way.
Bro, that happened to us at primary school.
Yeah, for me. So,
What, from the teacher?
Hey, listen, I would be in class in Barbados, right? And they would tell you, you spell this word. You spell this word. And they would have like a ruler or something.
Diaspora.
Yeah, diaspora.
oh sure,
Yeah. And you'd either have out your hands or they hit you on your buttocks or whatever. They could decide where they hit you, yeah? One day I was in class, the lady forgot her. Listen, I went to teach after I graduated.
Right.
They gave me chalk, they gave me an eraser, and they gave me bamboo.
Wow, yeah, man.
And they gave me bamboo to hit the kids.
Yeah,
That's it, bro. You are allowed to whip people and stuff.
Man.
So anyhow, when I was growing up, it was even worse. We were in class doing spelling, or they would give you the point at you and go 6 times 3.
Yeah.
You gotta be boom.
Right.
18.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta be like that. And they try to catch you out 4 times 7, quick, and shit like that.
28.
Yeah, right? So if you get that wrong,
Yeah.
That's
you
crazy.
get lashes, right?
Yeah.
One day, the person forgot their belt or whatever they normally use to hit you. I've seen people get it wrong. I've seen a teacher go outside, climb a tree, break a branch off, come back in the classroom and hit a kid with a branch like it's WWE.
Brutal, man.
I mean, just there like this is normal. Like that's normal for us.
Yeah.
The kids are like, I guess we're. Oh, fuck.
It's terrible though. It's trauma, man. It's trauma to teach your kids how to be followers instead of leaders. Do you know what I mean? And like my dad did.
But on the other hand, I mean,
They learned to spell 99% literacy rate in Barbados. I was terrified, mate. I've been in school just learning all the words.
yeah, and also from a job satisfaction point of view, to be able, you got a hangover, you know, your missus has been like riding or whatever, like, you know, you're pissed off. You go in and say, I've got 30 kids I can just fucking hit with a stick. If I don't have a stick, I can get one off a tree. Nobody's going to question me. You can't do that in any other job. You go outside in any other job, get a fucking branch off a tree, come in and say, you get in trouble. You know what I mean?
That's the reason why people in Barbados have no tree conservationism. People are like, save the trees. People are like, fuck the trees. It's just
I
weapons.
remember one time we just doing like some spelling. This teacher tell the guy spell occasion. You know that's a tough word because is it the double C, is
Or
it the
double
double
A,
S
yeah.
or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he got it wrong. She took the board duster, the eraser.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa,
Fuck.
in his head.
That's like a fucking...
That's soft, though. That's nice.
It's like a rubber bullet.
No, it's wooden at the top.
Oh, shit.
And then sponge at the bottom. So the
sucks.
wood hit his head.
sucks.
Yeah.
And we just like, that's normal for us.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
okay.
That sucks.
And he gets home, he's like, you know, parents are like, why have you got a big thing coming off your head, big lump on your head?
Yeah, and you
He's
do
like, the
Do you know what's
teacher threw
funny?
the eraser, and they'll be like, why are you pissing off the teacher? Now it's like, now if a kid goes home and he's like, oh, the teacher misgendered me or whatever.
Yeah.
The parents
then
are
the parents
writing,
wanna go
oh
fight
my
the
God, why are
teacher.
you misgendering my child? Oh, this is very traumatic for him.
It's different now, man.
It's funny though, like a lot of things that like the thing my therapist turned me onto was stoicism, like as a philosophy. And there's so many times where people look at adversity now as like something to avoid. The thing I learned is all these things that used to cause me pain were the things that made me better, that made me strong. I mean, there's a line, obviously. Like there's a difference between having your feet beaten and having your feet beaten so bad that you walk like an old black man to school. You know what I mean? Like I walk like my feet were bleeding. There, you know, there's a line. But there is a lot of like now I feel like we avoid like comedy. I remember this guy who's a social psychologist said, nobody knows why we laugh, but there are hypotheses.
I was wondering about why we laugh, because I was thinking about the other night. I was thinking about what would aliens be like if they came to Earth, or what are aliens like on other worlds? And I'm like, you know, what would they look? And I was like thinking, well, they probably would have two eyes, because that means you can focus. You got binocular vision, like you've got depth perception and stuff like that. And that, you know, that means like stuff would grow splits. You'd have like two arms, two legs, or it'd be in twos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, what about other? Like, and then I was like, would they laugh? Because like laughter, why do we even laugh? Why do we yawn? Why do we laugh?
Well, there is a soft science in an anecdote in why we laugh. It said that when we were cave people, life was so stressful that the only time we would have moments of peace was when we were congregating together. Yeah, because that's when we felt most safe. We're pack animals. And it'd be like in a cave or in a place where whenever we lit a fire and we'd eat together is when we felt safe. Yeah. So there'd be a group of people sitting together, about to relax, and then someone would hear a noise from a bush. Yeah. And then there'd be tension. Yeah. And then a rabbit would jump out. Right. And then the laughter came. Right. So the architecture was tension.
They're the funniest animal.
That's the original comedy.
Well, it was danger and then safety. Oh, right. Tension and then release. So what's happening now is people are raging against the tension before they ever hear the release. Yeah, yeah. And what they don't realize is architecturally, the purpose of laughter is the tension. Yeah. We need the tension in order to have the release. And I'll tell you something about woke culture that really drives me crazy is I had a woman, this happens to a lot of comics, but I feel like we don't share it because it's so personal, it's so intimate. I had a woman message me. And I've been to Afghanistan twice for UN troops. Yeah. And I had a woman message me. I had guys message me. I have multiple people message me in really dark situations. Yeah. This woman messaged me. I get a lot
of messages from the Taliban.
But this woman messaged me and she said, listen, you don't know me. I don't know if you're even going to read this, but I have a chronic illness. It's undiagnosed, but I'm in pain all the time. I'm 42 years old. I'm in a bed right now in constant pain. Jesus. One of my friends forwarded me this video of yours, and then I went onto your Instagram account and looked at all these other videos, and for about 45 minutes, I was laughing so much that I didn't feel my pain. Yeah. And I just wanted to say that you did that.
But now I'm in terrible pain again.
No, but here's the so here she said that, and it made me really emotional. I was like, man, that's incredibly kind of her to say it. 5 minutes later, I got a message from Instagram saying that the exact same video that she referenced was being taken down because somebody found it offensive.
No way. Yeah.
And I'm like, and I know in my soul that the person who found it offensive is not in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
And they are not in pain.
Yeah.
They are just someone who had a shitty day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? You're not taking away comedy from comics. You're taking away medicine from people in pain.
Yeah.
But us comics, we don't share those stories. We don't share those messages because it's too intimate.
Yeah.
It's too personal. It's too private. And we have the
I would,
decency.
if I got any, I would. But
No, but it's true.
I've got a couple of those, yeah.
I'm sure you have, and I'm sure and even if you didn't receive it, I'm sure people have felt it.
no, they have really. But
And you know, and it's just they're what they're doing is wrong. What they're doing is absolutely wrong because they're judging something without understanding what it is completely.
Yeah. Well,
they're judging the tension instead of judging the release.
yeah, and also like woke
This
culture.
woman messaged me and said that her husband, who was suffering from cancer, found my comedy,
Yeah.
and then he shot himself in the head.
And he didn't have it before.
You gave him the strength to do what he needed to do.
But before he did
it, to do what needed to be done. Oh shit. Who is it that said, is it Eddie Pepitone? He said, my personal trainer tried to work with me for 3 weeks. Nothing happened. I just heard a gunshot in the back room.
It sounds like Pepitone.
Yeah. Pepitone is so funny, man. That he's in my top 3 comedians, man.
Yeah.
Eddie Pepitone is.
I love the way he
brilliant.
embraces darkness. I think it's something that like
So good.
we're
man.
so afraid of darkness. And I've said this to audiences before. I go, I'm not dark because I talk about dark things. You're dark because you don't talk about them. By talking about dark things, I'm putting light on them. By not talking about them, you're keeping them in the dark.
Yeah.
Talking about dark things is shedding light. It's like telling a firefighter you're an arsonist because you're putting out the fire.
Right. Yeah.
Come on,
yeah.
no, you're the arsonist because you're the ones who aren't comfortable with putting it out.
You've integrated your shadow, as they say.
Yeah, 100%.
Pepitone is so funny, man. That guy
He's
is brilliant.
he's embraced the darkness.
He's in my top 3, man. Easy.
It's what Marcus Aurelius used to say all the time when he embraced Stoicism. He goes, if you accept
Was he
that
a-
death is, he always used to say like
He an emperor or something.
he was an emperor, but he was one of the, they called him the last good emperor.
Right.
Right, and he used to always say,
Meditations, his book is amazing, isn't it?
meditations is amazing. He goes, don't think about death, think about lunch.
Right.
You can't control death, but you can control
yeah,
what's.
This is because somebody wrote about what's the meaning of life and how can you be happy knowing that at some point you're going to be dead,
Yeah.
and then at that point, because only the now exists,
Yeah.
it'll be like you were never alive because
Yeah.
you won't be
Exactly
here. So
right.
everything is essentially
Exactly
pointless.
right. We're dying now.
But yeah, the advice for that was well, what are you having for lunch?
Yeah,
So I guess that's where
exactly,
where
because
they
you
got it
can control that.
Yeah, and
So
also
focus
it's
on what you
it's
can
something
control.
experience and look forward to, and there's no existential angst around what you're having for lunch. I mean, well, it depends where you go.
But it's just like, well, I was in NA. It was Narcotics Anonymous for long. I used to have a
What
really
drugs?
bad cocaine. Yeah,
Oh,
I used to have a
really?
really bad cocaine problem.
Cocaine running in my big
Yeah.
vein.
I used to.
How do
I
you get? Because cocaine is such a like. If ever I've not that I've done cocaine, but like any time that I've done it is like. It's just like
It feels great.
Oh fuck no! It's like now I'm really tense and aware, and like
Yeah.
the last thing I want to be is tense and aware. I'm already tense
Sure.
and aware enough, and then like the next couple of days it's like oh no I've got a cold.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I feel horrible.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's like,
you're
man, how
right.
do people get
You got
addicted to
cold?
this?
Why you got cold?
Well, here's
From
the
doing
thing.
cocaine.
It gives you a cold?
No, you feel horrible.
You feel bad after.
feel
Well, you know
bad.
what? I used to always say this.
not
I
like
was
those good
never.
drugs, like
I was never
heroin.
addicted.
Weed.
Well, I was never addicted to
don't get
drugs.
no-
Weed
you don't
is
get-
the worst because you
you don't
never
get a
hit
cold off
You
of
never
weed.
you never hit rock bottom. Think what you could have achieved if it wasn't for weed.
Dude, I would not be here if it wasn't for weed.
Yeah.
I
You'd be somewhere better. You'd be on a better podcast.
No, I wouldn't be. I'm telling you.
You'd be with Adam Rowe.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be. The most I've written was because of weed.
Yeah.
It's because you were relaxed.
My
It's because you were relaxed.
But no, I definitely think weed. Yes, and the weed is what
Makes you
gives me that
Yeah.
relaxation.
But you could, if you found other ways to be relaxed, you'd find that same creativity.
I don't
CBD.
think, I don't,
CBD from High Point.
I don't
CBD.
think in that
Use the
burst-
code 3SP. You get 10% off, and it gives you all the relaxation.
10?
You can probably write as much comedy as Nico, and it's a fantastic way to spend an
But no,
afternoon.
it allows you to see the connections
Yeah.
between different and separate topics and whatnot, and make the links easier, so much easier.
Why are we suddenly? Why is it suddenly 4 a.m. at a house party?
Because of the vodka?
But nah, it allows you, man. I'm telling you, some of the best stuff I wrote.
Sure.
Like,
But but I really think it's not the drug, Even with cocaine, I was lucky. I used to always say I was never addicted to cocaine. I was addicted to not feeling sad.
Right.
And so
right.
that's what made me love the cocaine. It's that I became the clown with my friends.
Right, yeah.
And so my identity was happiness, was joy.
Right.
And when I was sad, not only was I sad, I felt like I wasn't myself.
Yeah.
So, and with cocaine, you're borrowing, it's not your happiness. You're borrowing happiness from this shady loan shark.
Yeah.
So it's not that's why you're sad after. Because it's not
Also,
joy that
was
you've
it in
earned.
LA? Did you start in LA?
Oh, yeah.
Was it better cocaine there?
It was, we used to have this cocaine called celebrity grade. And I did so much coke, my dealer was like, I think you need to slow down. And I was like, wow, man.
I think in London, the best grade of cocaine you can get is I haven't rubbed my balls and anus on this.
No, but I dated a female bartender who was the head bartender at Chateau Marmont,
Right.
where John Belushi killed himself.
Yeah.
A lot of celebrities. And so a lot of people would go there because it was a rock and roll hotel.
Yeah.
So all the drug dealers would go up to her, knowing she's the head bartender, and say, we know people are going to ask you for drugs. Here's a sample.
Yeah.
So I'd finish at Comedy Store at 2 a.m. and I finally had a girlfriend that didn't mind.
Yeah.
Because she finished at 3 a.m.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd pick her up at 3:30. We'd go back to her house. She'd unload her purse with samples.
no way.
And one of them was this pink cocaine that this gay guy used to give her. He wore palm tree printed pants and a white coat.
Yeah.
And he gave her pink cocaine.
Yeah.
And it was celebrity grade, quote unquote. And it was the softest cocaine. And we do coke all morning, all day, have sex all night, wake up at 3 in the afternoon, eat once, and then go to work. We
Yeah.
were vampires.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I almost died. I didn't know how dangerous it was until 6 months into the relationship. She talked about her ex-boyfriend. I'm like, oh, whatever happened to your ex-boyfriend? She's like, oh, he died.
Jesus.
And I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I walked in his apartment. He had a heart attack and died. And I'm like, from what? And she goes, from cocaine.
Right.
And I'm
She
like,
wasn't wearing
what?
a Mr. Blobby suit. Or
And I was like, her boyfriend died
Yeah.
from the exact same thing that we're doing right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
And the fact that it didn't stop her
Yeah.
made me go, I'm scared of you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Did you break up?
I finally went to therapy. And I was on the path to like dying.
Right. Yeah.
I was really lucky to get out.
Did you know those 3 comedians who died from
I
that
did.
fentanyl list?
Yeah, I
of
did.
cocaine?
They're putting fentanyl in
You know them?
cocaine. In
Yeah, I
cocaine
knew
now.
all of them. Yeah.
So now cocaine is like, now you're not just, it's not just the risk of cocaine anyway, which is like, it can give you a heart attack because it speeds up your heart and constricts your arteries and stuff. Now it's also fentanyl. So every 1 in however many lines is going to have this grain of fentanyl that just bang, no matter what, bang, you're dead.
Yeah, it wasn't just those 3 comedians, by the way. There was 3 more people that died after that. In the LA comedy scene, comedians, agents, managers, I know 6 people that died during COVID, not from COVID,
Right.
from cocaine.
Right.
And when those comics went to the party in Venice Beach, that was a party that I would have gone to. So I feel like being in Europe saved my life.
Because of the bad cocaine.
Yeah, I would have, if I was at that party, I would have done that cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I would be dead right now.
fentanyl, you know where all the fentanyl is manufactured?
China.
China. That's absolutely right.
You pronounced that exactly like Trump.
China.
Yeah.
China.
So China is now using fentanyl to destabilize the West, like TikTok.
Really?
TikTok is social and psychological destabilization. Of
It makes sense.
Western kids.
That's why I don't understand why they're so crazy about the balloon. There's
Yeah.
a balloon 60,000 feet in the air with a telescope.
Yeah.
Why do you care about that when you've got TikTok?
Yeah.
It's way more invasive and literally in the bedrooms.
Yeah, stealing everybody's passwords and everything.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
and,
deleted TikTok.
and fentanyl.
That's the only one I deleted. But I deleted Facebook and TikTok.
Why Facebook?
Facebook is bad. But
Yeah.
Instagram
I'm
is
never
run
on
by
Facebook.
Facebook.
I used to be
but
on Facebook all the time. Now
Yeah,
you try
I
and
hate
open it.
it.
It's like fucking. It takes ages to
I
open. It's all
hate it.
clunky.
Yeah.
It's rubbish.
I hate it. I got rid of that.
I just use
got
it
rid
for
of
the ads
TikTok.
when I go on the road and I'm doing stuff internationally. In Europe is the Wild West. Outside of the UK, it's the fucking Wild West.
Right.
I want to tell you though about meditation. Like, I don't get like meditation. I do get the relaxation benefit, but I don't get that creative.
How often do you meditate? What do you meditate twice or once a day?
I'll tell you this. When I used to do it, right, I once had the best experience of my life. Like, I was doing it, and I got to that point where I ceased to exist as a soul entity. It was just, everything went like a light blue. I had no body, I had no ego.
Beautiful.
I had nothing.
Ego
Dude,
death.
Were you
I
sitting?
was just gone. I was just
That's it,
energy, mate.
Yeah.
That's it. You're connecting to source. That's the whole point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Imagine
That's
living
it.
your life like that.
Yeah.
I mean, hard, but
Yeah.
that's
But
like
where
Christ consciousness.
were you sitting?
I was sitting on a chair just doing a mantra over and over.
What mantra?
I think it was
Fuck
just
Darius.
like over and over.
You can find your mantra online, by the way. For anybody that wants to get into transcendental meditation, if you go online, you put your birth date and look for a transcendental meditation mantra, you can get it instead of paying $1,000 to. You can literally find it online,
Right.
and you'll find the exact word to use for your birth date.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Is this like astrology?
Well, it might be.
But
it may be.
Here's the thing. That guy Naval Ravikant, who's just like one of these modern day, philosophers, startup entrepreneurs who's mega successful. He says his whole thing is to sit still when the thoughts come. Just sit still and let the thought go away.
Yeah.
You don't need no mantra. You don't need to count. You don't need to focus on your breath. You're just trying to realize when the mind is not empty and get rid of the thought.
Right.
So when it comes, you go, oh, that's just a thought, and you let it float away.
Gently push it away.
Yeah, he's
Like a cloud in the sky.
He's like,
Yeah.
you don't need
I
no
like that. Yeah.
He's like, you don't need no mantra. The mantra is only to get you to that point where
Exactly.
you're
I'm a strong,
Right.
independent woman, and I don't need no mantra.
yeah. So you don't need no mantra. You don't need to no anchor. You don't need to focus on the breath or feelings or whatever. He's like, when a thought comes, disperse it and whatever.
But
So anyhow, let me just say this. I was doing it, boom, 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 and I got to this state. Everything just went light blue.
Yeah.
There was no more Nico. There was no more ego. There was no body. I couldn't feel anything in me. And it was like, fuck.
Yeah.
My mind went, boof. I was like, this is the most amazing feeling ever.
Yeah.
After that, I could not meditate properly again because
You
all
peaked.
I wanted was that feeling.
You were
Right,
chasing.
yeah.
I
Chasing
just
it,
went in there chasing that dragon.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to get back to that state.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to be able to meditate and not chase or look for that.
Right.
Because the whole thing of meditation is just a state of being. Just
Right.
accept everything that is here now.
Yeah.
And just be at peace with it.
You had like the egoic grasping to escape.
Yeah.
grasp.
I wanted to get back to that sense of no ego, no body, nothing.
Yeah, but
I
it's
kept
just
coming back.
it's just sitting.
Yeah, it's sitting, but I'm telling you,
is,
The
you're right.
feeling is like they wiped my hard drive. Whoosh.
Right.
You know
Everything
what's
was
funny?
gone. It was
We
like,
d- we
All
don't-
that incriminating evidence.
It is
Yeah,
just
it was mad,
just sitting,
mate.
but
It
there's
was mad.
it's too often in life that we don't just sit.
Oh, I spent a lot. I'm sitting
Yeah.
right now. My ass
Yeah.
is like sore.
Yeah, I gotta piss. So
That's not
bad.
from sitting though.
Right, that's a good point to pause. So we're gonna, join us. Thanks for listening. Join us on Patreon for the second half. of the Free Speech Podcast.
Where we actually have pink cocaine.
With
Yeah.
Celebrity grade cocaine.
Celebrity grade,
I've
baby.
rainbow-coloured cocaine and purple methamphetamine.
Are you recording though, Jonathan? Because you know you.
Oh yeah, remember
you
you
didn't
didn't
record.
I'll start now.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe. And
Sign into the Patreon where we beat up Jonathan for
sign
fun.
into the Patreon.
You can try, mate.
'cause
You can try.
we're
Happy
desperate-
birthday, Jonathan.
We're
Thank
desperate to make some money. And also, buy High Point CBD products. There's a link below with the code 3SP, and that supports us as well. And you get 10% off for using the 3SP code, which is the maximum amount of discount you will get using a code from High Point CBD.
Bye.